absolute beginners. This is going to be Lesson 7, Introduction to Simple Lighting. So we just left off here in Lesson 6 with we're starting to build out our scene. But there's something that I want to consider. How do I want it to be lit? And how can you tell? And where are the lights and what are my options? So right now we just have the standard lighting that came in the scene. It's just a simple point light. You can see it right here. This is where it's positioned. This is where that light source is going to come from. So if you want to see roughly what it's going to look like, what we can do is do a little preview here in the viewport. So over here on the right-hand side at the top of your scene, you have some different options, and there's a sphere in different icons that you can hover over. They'll tell you what they are. So this is wireframing, and wireframe mode will let you see that I never deleted that sphere, but it also gives you just this edge version of what all of your meshes look like. So this is wireframe. Sometimes people do it by accident, but it's very easy to correct. The next one is just our solid, here's what our shapes forms look like. The third one is our material preview. Now we actually haven't assigned any materials in this scene, so that's really not going to change anything. But it does give us this very bright option. This is our render preview. So our render preview shows us what it's going to look like roughly in the rendering, the way that the shadows are going to be cast, the way that the light is going to be diffused. And I think it's really useful as you're working on a scene to see how it's going to go. Now, sometimes people don't put in the lighting until the end, right? But this is literally just where we left off in the in the 6th tutorial here. So this is kind of cool. The point light is pretty cool. It's just a diffused regular light. There is a lot that you can do to change up the lighting in your scene, even just with very simple tools. So if we just go back into object mode, I can move this around and you see how the shadows adjust, which is kind of fun. And you can sort of mess with how you want that to be. Lighting can do a lot for your scene, honestly. It can take it from being cheerful and sunny. You can make it spooky. You can make it warm and inviting. You can make it seem sort of cold. And all of these are options that you have with lighting. For now, I'm going to turn this light off and hide its effect so that we can mess with and add some other ones. So if we go over here, there's a little eye next to each of the options, like a little eyeball. If you click it, it will hide the light and turn the light off in the scene. I'm just going to go back to my solid mode so we can actually see what's going on. Now we can go to add up here at the top. So we're still in object mode and we can go to add light and we see these options. So point light was just our first one. It's a nice diffused option. It goes in every direction, which is what it says, omnidirectional point light source, emanating from one point. Now we get a sun, which is what's called a parallel ray light source. It is so much brighter and so much more. So if we look at it, I'm just moving it up here, and if we look at our render preview, you can see the whole scene is lit, and it's all just coming from the top of our scene in this way. I don't necessarily love the sun option unless you're trying to do like very simple lighting or an outside view landscape, something like that. But it's not my favorite. And then here we have options and our information for what we have pulled up. And you can kind of toggle between, what these tabs are. But the one we want to concern ourselves with looks a little bit like a light bulb. Under here, there's a tab for light. We can actually change the color of our lighting, and this is for point light, which was off, for the sun, for a spotlight, which we'll get to, and for an area light, which we'll also get to. So right now, the color of the sun, we can honestly make it like a little brighter, a little warmer. I like to mess with it just a little if you're trying to keep it realistic. If you want to make it a bright color, it almost looks like you're at like a rave or a concert or something like that, which absolutely is an effect that you could go for. But if you're trying to keep it a little more, I don't know, realistic, quote unquote, you would stay relatively close to the center here. And you can adjust all of this. You can also go by hex and add a number in, or RGB, whatever, but I kind of like just dragging this around here. You can also mess with the strength of it, how diffused it is, some of that specularity, the volume, the angles that it's coming from. You can also mess with shadows. So I'm not going to for now, but this is pretty cool. So that's our sun. I'm gonna hide the sun. Actually, yeah, so here's just our shaded view, and here's our render preview, so you can see the difference. Shaded view, render preview. I'm gonna go ahead and hide that sun just like we did with the original point light, and I'm gonna go back to my shaded view so that we can try out a different kind. So we go to add spotlight. So spotlight is kind of fun. I'm just gonna, this is like enormous, why is it so big? I'm gonna scale this down. Oh no, stop. Get out of there. Command C. Why is he so big? I'm just scaling him down. That's a little absurd. Okay. So this is so wonky. What? I am just adjusting this, and we can kind of tumble around to see. I'm still a little oblong, but that's all right. You can mess with all kinds of stuff. You can see that your spotlight is shaped just like a cone with an arrow pointing to the angle of it, meaning how far out or how tight that circle of light is going to be. Let me put on the, oh my gosh, the render view so that you can, the render preview so you can see what it's going to be. Now this is kind of high up. It also, if you look at power, it's only at a 10. So this is a relatively, I don't want to say weak, but it's a low light thing. So if you see, I had to move it all the way down there to be able to see it. I'm going to turn this up a little bit. I don't know, I'm going to set it to like 100. And you can see that moves a little bit more. And it looks almost like if you were doing like a stand-up comedy skit or something like that. Like you have a spotlight on a stage. You can, of course, move this. You can rotate it. I'm going to rotate it just a little so you can see kind of how that works. And the arrow at the bottom of the circle that's pointing down, if you pull that, it can widen the scope of it, or you can keep it really tightened and focused. Like at that scene at the beginning of Monsters Inc. with, oh no, I'm sorry. It's not the beginning. It's probably towards the end with Mike Wazowski where he's sitting there with the microphone. I think that's the end. I'm sorry. So again, and you can kind of mess with what you want those settings to be. Now let's see what that looks like with the point light. You can still kind of see it, but you can mess with, the power of it. And again, all these settings. I'm going to change this to be a little bit cooler of a light source. And you can see how you want that, to come into play. So that one's pretty cool. I'm going to go back to my shaded mode, and I'm going to add in a last light called the area light. So again, this is all just going to the main, what is the word? Origin point. I don't know how words work. And you can see it's pointed down. There's just a plane where it's set to, and I'm going to show it what it looks like right now just in the viewport shade. So it's a smaller light. If you want to, you can put it into the lamp to make it look like it's sort of glowing from the lamp. You can also mess with the translucence of the lampshade. And you can mess with the colors on that. If you want to, I can make this look like sort of a warm, like the little yellow lights that they have. That's too yellow. There we go, something like that. It doesn't really, it's what you choose. Again, you can also mess with the power. You can mess with the size. Maybe you have like a really long light that you want to make it more diffuse, whatever. Honestly, whatever you choose. It all depends on the effect that you're going for and how you want that to be shown. So I'm going to keep my two lights relatively separate. You can absolutely have more than one light in a scene. You can have really as many as you choose, but just be aware of how you're controlling them and what settings you are putting on there. So again, the settings are going to be in your little, it looks like a light bulb, and if you hover over it long enough, it tells you it is object data properties. So I'm going to put on the point light again. But what I'm going to do here is turn, hang on, go to point light. So you can see over here which one you're on. Spotlight, we're at 100. Point light, we're also at 100, but I'm going to set that to like, I don't know, 70. That doesn't change very much. Let's say 50. And you can mess with whatever it is you choose. I'm actually going to turn that off for now. There we go. We're going to hide it, and let's see how that renders. I haven't repositioned my camera or anything, which I probably should do. Hang on. Here we are. Camera. Reposition. You don't actually have to sing it when you select the camera, but you absolutely can if you choose to. I'm gonna reposition. Okay, great. Render image. There we go. So we see a little more of it. The point light I've just hidden. I haven't actually removed it, so we can still see how it's affecting the shadows. Multiple light sources are gonna make your scene a little bit more, I don't want to say real world, we'll say realistic, because in a real room, you have windows, so you have light sources coming from outside. You may have overhead lights, you may have lamps. All of these are going to affect it differently. You also can choose to put in a window into your room, which we can go over next time. And you could have a light outside that's coming in and casting shadows in that way. So lighting can be a lot of fun and can do a lot to set the mood and the tone. A lot more fun that you can have, and you can definitely get into some of the details a little bit more, but this is a great place to start. As always, please let me know how it goes and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.